There's a bit of a lengthy preamble here, so if you want to skip all of that and get right to the juicy theory, I won't be mad at all. Just click this time signature on the time bar. There has been an immense, at least for me, inpouring of information and theorizing the comments of my Why Not analysis video. I did give an honest attempt at reading through all of them, and I gotta tell you, y'all are on another level entirely. Some I agreed with, some seemed as likely as the next thing, and some just left me very, very confused. And being honest, Why Not is a different beast entirely from So What or even Hi Hi. If I might explain, I'm a lot stricter and more conservative, I would say, with what details I am willing to employ when it comes to the Looniverse and constructing theories on it. There's a ton of stuff out there regarding Loona theories that people probably expect me to know and adhere to, and I just don't. I don't like to extrapolate too much. It feels wobbly and unsafe. This is generally why it takes me so long to produce theory videos. I have a shit ton of theories still in Word docs that have never seen the light of day because I just do not like extrapolating too far, and when I try to, I lose my train of thought. The Two-Faced Girl was a theory that I never actually finished because while I connected a lot of dots, I never actually made it to a point. A lot of them are like that. In fact, my first theory video ever, The Swallowing of the Sun, was that to a T. Please do not go watch it, I can do so much better than that now. So you can understand how Why Not is a bit of heaven and hell for me. It's got a lot of beautiful details that are clear references to previous lore, as well as a lot of details that could be taken as heavily meaningful, or could just as easily be all but meaningless. It's girl-fronty that way. What I am going to say now is that I'm probably not going to touch on anything time travel or Mobius related, not only because I maintain that a lot of orbits are vulnerable to over-analysis on that front, see also this video right here, but because I remain wary of concepts like that in full. While there's definitely a lot to be said for those things, I'm going to leave those up to somebody else who better understands them. I will note several things that were brought to my attention by more informed orbits, most of which came from the concert video for this comeback. Those will come up as we get to them. Now that we can actually start though, let's address the very first thing, the new moon. That is to say, that thing I only talked about in the last 30 seconds of the Vanilla Theories video, even though I referred to it in the title. Yeah, it's time to make good on that. Singing in the Rain, for those who don't know, is my favorite Loona solo. It's crazy good music, an absolute banger, the artistic choices are out of this world, and it has Jinsoul in it. But it is absolute hell for theorizing with. It has always frustrated the absolute shit out of me because making sense of it and connecting it with the wider Looniverse is more than my tiny brain can handle. So you can understand that how absurdly happy I am that we actually have callbacks to this specific MV, and we have them in abundance. This is primarily where we start extrapolating when it comes to the Darkest Hour. The more I think about it, the more I watch Why Not, the less those scenes characterized by extreme darkness seem like coincidences. Back in Singing in the Rain, this just seemed like an odd stylistic choice to save money after the expensive 1/3 solos. But now we know better. There is a reason for this intense lack of light, just like there is a reason for all of the glitchy distortions that as of now are still unexplained. With the arrival of Why Not, the concept of a new moon, the phase of the moon where it is reflecting no light back onto the Earth and thus can't be seen, enters the story. Which is kind of surprising since it's been very unmentioned up until now, considering the lunar theme of the group. Now that it's here, we can see it in previous videos for what it is, and we know almost for certain that it was a big feature in at least one solo. So let's go back and take a good look at the events of that solo.
Hey boy, I can take care of us.
Jinsoul runs through a black void, which I now take to be a night unlit by the new moon, and in the process of escaping her containment, immerses the world in a rainstorm. It's been pointed out to me that in Why Not, the things in the air around Jinsoul's telephone booth are in fact raindrops, seemingly stopped in midair, and the water ripples lit by odd icicles colors are in fact raindrops hitting the ground in reverse. Since we see similar conditions in the new MV, we're going to be daring and extrapolate our first premise, that Singing in the Rain takes place either concurrently with, just before, or immediately after Why Not. Jinsoul is back in containment in the latter, so I will hesitantly place it concurrently. This would imply that Jinsoul's odd eye was directly involved in the escape, and we can infer that Jinsoul's escape actually had very large consequences for the wider Looniverse. Certain parts of the lyrics do seem to call back to this theme of containment as well, with Kimlip singing about feeling trapped in a square, straight room, not too dissimilar to the telephone booth Jinsoul is in, or her barred cage in Egoist. Let's also take note of Jinsoul's appearance here. Black hair with tattoos along both arms. Her left arm bears tattoos of moons, while her right arm bears tattoos of cherries. This really raises my eyebrow because while her odd eye is on the left side, Cherry's odd eye is on the right. Back in The Swallowing of the Sun, I speculated that Jinsoul ate a cherry, or a sun, back when she was dark-haired, thanks to her rap in Egoist, and that this may have contributed to her containment by damaging her odd eye. We'll put a new spin on that take now, and we'll do it by diving instead into an idea I expounded on in The Two-Faced Girl, which is that fallen fruits do more than send you from Eden to Earth. We will even say, for now, that's not even their primary purpose, at least for some of them. You see, back when I analyzed New, I noticed something that I was pretty sure no one else had. 3 apples, saturated in the red filter that would later become associated with Olivia. The key word is 3, not 4, meaning there isn't one for each YYXY member, unless there's one for each split. We already know that, at least in Cherry's case, eating a sun will split her into 2, so that she can work together with her reflection to get to different parts of the universe. Perhaps the same is true for the apples, which might have been implied by the lore-related video 1. In that, the 4 YYXY girls are heavily implied to be, in some fashion, all the same person, with Eve, Chu, and Gowon appearing in a mirror behind Olivia after the latter bites an apple, further suggesting that Olivia is the self from which the other 3 are offshoots. I used this theory to postulate that at some point, Jinsoul and Olivia were the same person, which is implied just as heavily, and that Cherry and Hyunjin, the twins and So What, were also in a similar situation. In both cases, 2 already divergent selves were officially split into separate people by the consumption of a sun. The difference is that one pair were Eden natives, while the other were Earth natives. If you keep that in mind, then look at Cherry's scenes here, things take on a new look. Cherry, like Jinsoul, has been contained. She's also surrounded by neon, albeit hers are in the form of flames. She's also wearing yellow, which up until now has been a Hyunjin exclusive color, mostly. There are close-ups of her eye here, and yet there's no purple halo like we know she should have. The implication is that, in Why Not, Cherry has not yet split off and awakened her eye power. There are similar close-ups of Kimblip, who also doesn't have a glowing eye, and has been restyled to be near identical to her early LOONA look. Whether it takes place immediately before or after Singing in the Rain isn't actually that important. You can take Kimblip and Jinsoul scenes that are important and apply either one, and just as fairly given what I'll be saying soon. There's also other hints as to the timeline positioning of this video. See, Eve is occupying the same Earth alleyway as was present in Sweet Crazy Love, so New has already happened, and she's already fallen. On the other hand, the scenes in New set after her fall, namely her meetup with Vivi, may not have happened yet since the latter is looking for the former in Why Not, and has failed to get to her, as confirmed in the making of videos. Other hints to the timeline here include the scenes with Chu and Gowon. I'd like to re-examine this shot right here. I maintain that this is the sun, which we know to be Eden, or very close to Eden, so it's likely fair to say that Chu is in Eden at this point. This is further backed up by the general look of things. Everything is hot and bright, and grass and vibrant leaves surround the place. Doesn't that put you in mind of the exact opposite of Let Me In, where everything was cold and frozen and dead? Which makes sense enough since Chu is the counterpart of Hasu. It makes sense her world would be the polar opposite of Hasu's. More interesting than that, though, is this thing right here. It's easy to dismiss this as simply an unimportant detail, a background note given what the focal point is clearly supposed to be. But in retrospect, that seems dumb. If this really was Chu and Eden, it would only make sense for this falling object to be Eve. Yes, that meteor falling from the sky towards Earth is in fact Eve's fall taking place. By this point, Chu's world had also receded further from the sun, implying she's in the process of her own rejection of Eden. And yes, a lot of you informed me that it was in fact Gowon lowering towards the eye of the storm in that one shot, as cleared up in the concert's making of video, so thank you for that. I honestly don't know why this didn't occur to me sooner. I would like to present the possibility that this shot, specifically, is depicting Gowon's fall as it happens. So if all of this is happening before Singing in the Rain, there is a possibility that we can confirm Jinsoul as the villain, perhaps of the story as a whole. I will remind you that a grand darkness covering the earth is found in a lot of places in the Bible, from an ill omen during Jesus' crucifixion to a sign of the end times. As it actually happens, a complete solar eclipse cannot happen without a new moon, which we now associate with Jinsoul. While a lot of speculation has flown around about Olivia being a villainous figure and a fallen angel, nearly all of the details that point to this are either shared with or outright adopted from Jinsoul, such as the fallen angel detail actually appearing behind the latter during her rap, and her solar imagery debuting in Singing in the Rain. Think about it. Everyone's wandering around in a land full of darkness, and the world is starting to break down. Meteors are falling from the sky, stores are being ransacked, and a massive superstorm is threatening Go-On as she falls from Eden to Earth. All of this is a harbinger of a very dangerous figure breaking free of her prison and taking over. Now, enter Eve. See, Jinsoul is from Eden, and the threat she poses might already be well known to her. Now that we've seen her among locations associated with Odd Eye Circle, and specifically with Kimlip, we finally have context for this scene right here. This scene has frustrated me to no end, because it's almost a non sequitur. Kimlip and Eve have never once interacted or even come close to crossing paths within LOONA lore prior to this, so I was scratching my head wondering what was going on. Now we can extrapolate. If Eve were aware of Jinsoul's movements, she could act to head her off, and she may have done that by sending Kimlip to find a power, which would later manifest as her red odd eye. That's what I think this scene is. She's discovering a power, but hasn't manifested it yet, hence why these orbs of light have no sign of her thematic color. After this was achieved, Kimlip would return to the alley and go on to track down Cherry, whose eye awakening would help Eve get Go-On to fall. But what about the parts where Jinsoul worked together with the other LOONA members? After all, Cherry only awakened her eye by her machinations, and she was more than happy to work with the others in looking for 1/3 when it came to Girlfront. There's always the possibility that Jinsoul doesn't want to cause a catastrophe, but it's out of her hands. She may have been more than willing to help even if she was determined to defy her imprisonment. You can also interpret all this another way. Jinsoul's imprisonment is implied to be because of her sin, which is swallowing the sun, which we've here associated with a new moon and a global calamity. Why not may not be the harbinger, it may be the actual calamity, and the imprisonment she escapes in her solo might have been inflicted on her to contain her in retaliation. If that was the case, the rainstorm she summons would be a form of atonement, since a global downpour would be one way to fix a world on fire. After all, Jinsoul is also among the 11 girls circling the fire on the moon. She's taking part in this grand midnight festival. Could it be that she wants to atone for the damages she caused, which may have taken the life of a certain girl? The end of the video leans things towards the idea, at least, that the Midnight Festival is a concerted effort to bring back Hasul. The implication is that something had to be sacrificed to do so, given Hyunjin's missing shoe. Considering what we've established about Hyunjin and Cherry, and how Cherry is surrounded by flames in this video, you could take that idea to some very dark places, but for now, let's duck around that. Another thing I've noted that I don't think very many other people have is how the symbol of the Converse brand shoes applies to LOONA. Via the star on the ankle, LOONA when wearing these shoes literally walk on the stars. There is a reason that Odd Eye Circle, who first revealed an ability to travel a large universe, were the ones to introduce the shoe, as it correlates to their implied powers. It's since been applied to every member of the group, and likewise the fact that Hyunjin has been left half barefoot at the end may imply a damaged ability to travel the verse, thus leaving her stranded. So I hope the sacrifice was worth it, girl. That was the theory. It does feel a lot more complete than the initial dive, although there's undoubtedly a lot of holes here and there. One day LOONA will throw another cinema theory and explain some things. Tell me, does this seem like a more complete, likely explanation of the MV to you? You can tell me what you think in the comments as well as tell me your own theories. Otherwise, have a very nice day, and stay safe. Thanks for watching.